those of you who've watched me for a bit, either here on YouTube or over on twitch.tv/gamerscharisma, you'll know that I've been pretty vocal about my opinion on Breath of the Wild. Out of all the Zelda games, this is the worst Zelda game. It's a horrible game. I hate this game. This game sucks. I don't like this game. This game sucks. Tears of the Kingdom is coming soon, and as part of my general push this year to start actually clearing games from my backlog, I decided to finally push myself to play through and beat Breath of the Wild. And this begs the question, has my opinion changed on this game over the past several years? Well, go on, beg the question. March 2017, those were simpler times. I was fairly fresh out of high school and was in the workforce for just a year at this point. This was the period where I still had these funny things in my head. You know, ambitions, hope, dreams, and a will to live. The Nintendo Switch just came out, and with it a fairly rubbish amount of games. But in this pile was the greatest Zelda game ever created, one that came down to us from heaven by God himself. And you know what else came down from heaven? Satan. I was so hyped for this game. The Switch release was essentially the only way to have console quality games on the go. It was somewhat tried and done before, but I felt something different this time. Not to mention, after seeing the big reveal for the Switch, the Super Bowl ad using Believer as the song, I could tell Nintendo learned from the Wii U and were planning to come to this generation punching. Many people doubted me, said it was going to fail, third party wouldn't show. This was the first system I was truly excited for, and the first I was ever going to be able to get at launch now that I had a job. And at the big reveal trailer months prior to launch, they showcased this trailer. This trailer is what made me so hyped for the game. It looked to be a fantastic, high-octane Zelda adventure with a new open-world style. And the kicker, it's now portable! The day came, March 3rd. I had the pleasure, or rather misfortune, of pre-ordering both the game and the console through GameStop. I got the console on time at least, but the game was a day late. Oh, and my credit card was stolen due to a breach in their system happening right when pre-orders went up. Fantastic! For the first day of owning a Switch, I didn't even own a game. I just lovingly looked at the system like this. Second day, I scrambled home from work. There it was, sitting on the doorstep like an orphaned child, lovingly brought to me by USPS. And for once, they actually didn't misdeliver the package to a completely wrong address. It was going to be a good evening. I rip open the package like a druggie, eagerly awaiting their fix, smash the cart into the console as hard as I hope you smash the like button, and saw that beautiful icon on my home menu in the sea of empty white. This was it. The time had come. Yeah, time for one of my greatest disappointments in gaming. I played the game for a few hours, then nothing. It got put back on the shelf, the first in a collection it got to watch grow beside it, hoping someday it would be slotted into my system again, but instead, it collected dust. As I've stated in the past, this game isn't a bad game, far from it even, but even after trying to pick it up a couple times after that, it always ended up back here on the shelf again. Something about this game just wouldn't click with me like it was for others, and I couldn't figure out why. So, not too long ago, I decided it was finally time to start digging and see if I could discover the long lost secret of my utter disinterest in this game. I said utter. Problem number 1, the weapon system. Unlike past Zelda games, your weapons have durability and break after a certain amount of use. This in and of itself isn't horrible, many games have done this in the past, but somehow Breath of the Wild found just the right way to build the mechanics in a way that annoys me. It's a constant hunt for weapons, where it often involves attempting to kill enemies to try to get their weapons, although sometimes end up with even fewer weapons than you went in with due to more weapons breaking than what you were able to pick up. Some of these enemies I can easily counter at the start cost me the entire durability of a weapon, and they're still alive! Like, good grief, they cling on to life harder than I cling on to any person who gives me a modicum of attention. And don't even try to go against these guardian mofos at the start. Unless you find a good way to cheese it, you'll wipe out your entire weapon stash, and you will simply act like you were a minor inconvenience in its day. Just a story to tell to its friends by the water cooler afterward. And that's just the ones that stand there menacingly. Once you find find them on legs walking around, you better start praying to the deity of your choosing that they don't spot you, because if they do, there is no escape. In they come to frick up your day. Why was I bleeped? I said frick. And this brings us perfectly to problem number 2. The open world is semi-linear. Now, I get it. Open world games are often designed in ways that kind of guide you a bit through it. Things like requiring items to be able to access parts of the map, and Breath of the Wild does this partially well. Things like certain areas having high or low temperatures that require either food item, elixir, or clothing in order to head into it without dying. But enemies also vary by location, and let me say, you better be careful walking into the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. For a game that heavily pushes you to explore, boy howdy, it sure does really hate if you travel too far too soon. One moment you're having a grand time exploring the terrain, the next you're being ambushed by bokoblins on horses, getting your rear end handed straight to you. And good gosh, you better hope you manually saved recently, because in comes problem number 3. Auto saves are whack. Normally, a regular game will auto save whenever you get to a major checkpoint or travel far enough. But in exploration games where there aren't set paths, frequently there are 2 ways an autosave will happen. First, it will autosave whenever you either get to or complete a major task. Things like defeating a major boss, completing a mission, or some other type of interaction that could be considered a checkpoint to advancing the main story. The second way is autosaving progress after a set amount of time. Think about something like Minecraft with how it saves the map roughly every 5 minutes using default settings. This is where Breath of the Wild differs. It's got a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. From what I can tell, it seems Breath of the Wild will autosave in these 2 situations. 1. You move far enough to enter a new area. Basically, anytime you see text show up on the screen telling you where you are, that seems to also be when it will autosave. And 2. You get to or complete a mission or major task. Wait, this just sounds like all of column A. So I hear you're asking, what's wrong? Well, I'm so glad you asked, random voice in my head. Come here, get closer, real close. Ready? You can spend a ridiculous amount of time in a small area without doing anything that would cause an autosave. I once climbed the mountain, took on a stone talus, and then continued to do some more climbing. All of this was roughly 20 minutes of work, so you can imagine my sheer frustration when I made one small but admittedly stupid move and got to watch Boy Zelda here helplessly ragdoll flail around like this until he finally died. And when I loaded up the autosave, all of that work was absolutely wiped. I guess this big boy is enough of a baddie for the game to warrant an autosave after defeat. I've started to learn to manually save regularly, but I'm not the impervious god I think I am during the mania segments of my bipolar disorder. I sometimes forget, and when I do, it typically ends like this. We could make the argument that older Zelda titles worked somewhat similarly for their saves, but there's just something about this title that makes it rub me the wrong way.
So I was gonna put a cutaway joke about being rubbed the right way, but we're not that kind of channel.
We are now arriving at problem number 4. How the story is told. I'm gonna go straight to the point here. I fully understand why the story plays out in the manner it does. For those who don't know, spoiler warning, but Link wakes up with amnesia, and most of the main plot is seen as flashbacks as you slowly reclaim your lost memories. There is a bit of story that plays out as you get through main missions like the Divine Beasts, but otherwise the rest of the story I past tense had nothing to do with, and present tense have nothing to do with. Like, yeah, that story that plays out is great, but man, do I really just not care since I have no part in it. It just feels like this is how the game wants me to react. They all died. And this is how I actually react. They died. Again, in context of what's happening, how this plays out makes total sense. But that doesn't stop the issue of that more exciting story feeling entirely disjointed and disconnected from what I'm actually playing. And that could just be a me thing, but I know others who enjoy the game that are able to somewhat agree with me on this matter. Overall, it's not bad, but it's not what I would consider interesting or optimal. All these issues are ones that I have felt for years, but the past month or so, I have tasked myself to spend more time in the game to give it one more fair shot before Tears of the Kingdom releases this month. When I first started, I was having fun, and I was wondering why I even disliked it, and then reality set in again.
Oh, ouch. No!
Alright, now I remember, the game pisses me off! But I couldn't let myself stop here. I have to keep going, my backlog is ever growing, and I have to be easygoing to stop the backflowing. I move forward knowing that as I keep tiptoeing, I'll hopefully soon be slowing the steady overflowing. I don't know about you, but I think I'm pretty outgoing. Enough with the rhymes, back to the task at hand. This game was creeping back in with my disdain for the changes it made to the Zelda formula. But as I kept pushing forward, something magical started to happen. I had this feeling in the pit of my stomach. I'm not sure exactly how to explain it. Turns out, according to my doctor, it was impacted bowels. And maybe it was the euphoria of finally having empty bowels after that visit, but I think I started to enjoy Breath of the Wild. Hold on, I gotta check something. Yep, hell's frozen over. I still don't think this game is the perfect Zelda game, but some of the issues I went through earlier start to change a bit the more you play through. So now we get to rewind back and see what, if anything, has changed for each problem. Problem number 1, the weapon system. I'm not gonna say I was wrong because, look at me, I'm never wrong, but maybe I was overzealous with my hatred of the system. Weapons at the start are absolutely weak sauce, and early game what I previously stated about the durability being annoying stands true. But after getting further into the game, and getting weapons from shrines and stronger enemies, they do start to break less often. This combined with the fact that as you collect Korok Seeds you open up more slots, which makes it so I frequently have to ignore item drops as I just don't need the weapons at the moment. Kinda like when you drop something on the floor and then just can't be bothered to pick it up. I'll leave it there, and if I need it in the near future, I'll know where it is. Else it goes to the void to meet up with the missing sock pairs, drop pencils, and small screws for the electronics you're working on. That last one is especially true for IT techs like myself. Problem number 2, the open world is semi-linear. I do still somewhat stand by this point, but at the same time, it's not that hard to avoid areas that are clearly above your current skill. And further in, it's pretty easy to run away from them, especially using exploits we'll talk about later. It does kinda sorta guide you a bit at the start, but it does so without restricting your freedom. Nothing stops you from barreling through those harder areas. And while parts of the map are hard to get to without upgrading stamina or health, pretty much all these places can still be accessed using out-of-the-box methods. Yes, we'll also talk about this hilarity later. Problem number 3, autosaves are whack. I still agree with this point almost fully. With the new style of Zelda, I don't think it's fully fair to compare how it saves to other Zelda games. Instead, it should be more fair to consider it to other exploration games. If there's a way to play the game where I can accidentally go an extended amount of time without triggering an autosave, that's in my opinion not great. The way it currently works is almost fine, but it needs a sprinkling of some time-based autosaving as well, where if nothing has triggered an autosave after X amount of time, just run an autosave anyway. In any case, as long as you remember to manually save after important stuff, you'll be fine. I do still forget to save on a semi-regular basis, but you couldn't even trust me with an egg, let alone saving a video game.
Oh no.
Problem number 4, how the story is told. Yeah, nothing about my opinion is changing here. As I said earlier, it's an interesting story for sure. I just feel disconnected from the interesting parts of the story. The 5% of story that actually happens in relation to the current time I'm playing through is all just kind of boring in comparison. It's cool, but I can't connect to it like I feel Nintendo wanted me to. At this point, I'm just repeating what I said earlier, so we'll move away from that and instead talk about... Yes, now I'm going over some of the things I haven't really discussed yet that are additional good noodle stars towards being a good game. Starting with Redemption number 1, the movement. And this, frankly, is one of the biggest things that differentiates this game from past Zelda titles. This is the first 3D Zelda game to have a jump button. Man, we really are making some great technical leaps here. Sure, Zelda 2 had jumping, but that was also just overall not a very good game hot take. And yes, by default, the jump button is in what is easily the most bizarre location. Up here on the X button. You can swap B and X to bring jump to a more reasonable location, but I'm of the belief that keeping it default puts a little hair on your chest.
I did say a little hair.
Overall, this game has some of the most pleasing world traversal for an open world game. Almost every aspect of traversal makes you feel very in control while being rewarding when you work your way up a mountain, only to then be struck down like a ragdoll by an enemy at the top. The gliding feels excellent, giving full control of when I put it up and when I instead fall to my death. The running is okay. I personally feel it drains through stamina faster than it should. Like, are we really gonna believe it takes less stamina to free climb than it does to do a light sprint? Doesn't matter though, because either way, we have a very easy way to cheese this and other aspects of movement. Redemption number 2, it's buggy in the best way. Games having bugs generally fall into one of two camps. Camp A are ones that break the game in ways that inhibit gameplay, making the game less fun. Typically the bugs in this camp are also pretty easy to trigger accidentally without trying to hunt for them. Now in Camp B, we have the bugs that aren't typically easy to accidentally trigger during normal gameplay, and break the game in ways that are actually fun. And luckily, Breath of the Wild snuggles comfortably in its sleeping bag within Camp B. One of the first and easiest tricks you can do in this game is the whistle sprinting. This glitch lets you infinitely sprint without using stamina, and it's that cheese for the sprint stamina issue I mentioned earlier. All you have to do is hold down the D-pad while also moving Link with the left stick and tapping the sprint button repeatedly. No, this isn't Mario Party. You do not need to tap with a speed only matched by Barry Allen, or the speed of my bones if I drink any caffeine. My body does not do caffeine. Just a couple times a second should be plenty to keep you running. It's even easier if you use a controller like the 8BitDo Ultimate Bluetooth controller. I just map D-pad down to the left macro button and B to the right macro button. That way I can whistle sprint while maintaining full control of Boy Zelda. Another glitch is fall damage cancel. I'm gonna be honest, I don't use this one much. I have tried it a couple of times and it's pretty easy to do. Equip a weapon, start falling, and hold R to throw the weapon, but don't actually throw the weapon. Right before hitting the ground, use D-pad right to unequip the weapon. This technique is only really of use in Great Plateau before getting your paraglider, since after that the paraglider is the far more sensible option. But do I look like a sensible person? I didn't think so. Finally, the last glitch that I'll cover is my personal favorite. It's a bit more difficult than the previous two, but it is far more fun to mess around with once you figure it out. It's referred to as BLSS, which stands for Bow Lift Smuggling Slide, but I personally prefer to call it the Bomb Wiggle, which you'll see in a moment why I prefer that name. To do this glitch, you need a shield, remote bombs, and a bow. Equip the shield, take out a remote bomb, then set it down. Hold ZL to take your shield out, then hit ZR and A in rapid succession, one right after the other. Then you need to, again in rapid succession, tap X, then B, then plus. You may need to swap X and B in these instructions if you've done that in the game settings. Once in the menu, unequip your shield, use ZR to aim your bow, and then just tap B to cancel. You'll know you got it correct if the bomb is now attached to Link's wrist, parading it around like a gaudy piece of jewelry for a woman who only married her man for his money. From here, you need anything that activates Link's step-up animation. The easiest and most optimal place to start from is generally the towers, as the ledge is high enough to activate this animation, and the height of the tower is an optimal point to start from for long distance travel. Simply walk to the ledge and then hold B before walking onto the ledge. Make sure you do not release B nor let the left stick return to center, as doing so will cause Link to fall to his demise. You should now be floating, congrats! But as you'll probably notice, you aren't moving very fast. In fact, even if you get a good starting boost, you'll quickly slow down to going even slower than just walking. This is where we introduce the wiggle. Aim your camera in the direction you want to go, then get Link to face towards the camera, and finally, wiggle the stick left and right through the center. It takes a bit of practice to learn the rhythm of this wiggle, but generally in my experience, for myself and helping others, it's usually safe to say the optimal rhythm is slower than you originally expect. Within a couple hours of practice, I was able to sail across the map to skip most of Hyrule Castle because, although I may hate myself, I don't hate myself enough to deal with that quite yet. Though it has its problems, I've come to really enjoy what Breath of the Wild has to offer, which is a far cry from what I thought about the game not even a few months ago. After finally giving this game the time it rightfully deserves, I can proudly say it has earned its place on my shelf. And this month, I am leaving a spot here with its arms open and waiting to be lovingly filled with Tears of the Kingdom. And because I know there are people out there who are trying to go in blind, this next part is intentionally going to be vague to prevent spoilers. But I will warn you that I will still have some of the past trailers shown here, so if you want to remain blind to those as well, keep listening to my raspy, still not through puberty sounding voice while I talk about it.
Future Editing Cyber here. I lied. Nintendo is now striking down a bunch of videos that just show parts of the trailer, so you'll just get more Breath of the Wild here. Good job, Nintendo.
This upcoming continuation is looking like it will take all the best parts of what made Breath of the Wild good, but cranking them up to 11. The plot looks to actually be involving the Link we play as this time, and and there are so many fantastic elements that will make vanilla traversal that much funner and creative. Tears of the Kingdom is looking like it'll be the ultimate form of Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is like power level 9000, and this
is to go even further beyond!
So, yes, 6 years after buying the game, my opinion has finally changed. Although I do still get annoyed at times with it, I find myself losing hours of time on accident sometimes, doing complete nonsense with a sense of exploration that even Minecraft doesn't feel anymore. Mountains, while sometimes difficult to climb, can be climbed, and when you get to the top, you feel the greatest sense of triumph. And I have high hopes that Tears of the Kingdom will take this aspect to the next level. I just hope we find new ways to do this again.